Alright, well, this isn't the video that I was intending to make today because I was hoping I was going to have a backhoe and be moving a dirt pile behind the barn, but the backhoe I was going to borrow is currently two towns away doing some tree work, so that kind of ixnayed that plan, and I had to come home and regroup. So I decided that since I had said like 2 weeks ago I was going to do a crop update video, probably need to get that out of the way, and today was a good day to do it. So not gonna go to everything, we're just gonna kind of hit the highlights. So but this is not just the first bean field planted, this was the first field that I planted, period. So honestly, I'm kind of, I mean, these things are damn near armpit tall, and they got a fair number of pods on them. That being said, tall beans don't necessarily mean big yields, because with beans you don't necessarily want a tall plant, you want a lot of branches, because there's going to be beans on every node. So you can have tall beans that don't yield shit because there's no nodes, so they didn't put any pods on, and you can have beans that are 12 inches tall but they got a bunch of branches, and those beans will go 65-70 bushels. So height with beans doesn't always mean a lot, but it makes you feel better when you're cutting them. Yeah, right here we're all the way up to my armpits, as long as they stay standing. I actually have not been to this field since I sprayed it, so I was kind of hoping I wasn't going to come down here and see a bunch of weeds, which the only weeds I see are right up there by the truck, which it looks like I must not have waited long enough purging my booms to get the water out, and it must not have got a decent dose or a decent shot of spray in there. But Teeter, you're knocking down the beans. Those beans are like 3.5, 4 foot tall, and she's clearing the tops when she jumps. So that's this field. I guess we'll jump on down to the next one. Okay, now we're down here on the muck. The respray did a good job, and as you can see, oh, it's not terrible, but there's still some ragweed poking through, but we're sitting in a lot better spot than we were last year. I should have stayed on the end road for a minute, so I want to walk in further. Oh, wait. The first 16 are all the way out to the road. Okay, these are end road. Bear with me here. This is some good looking corn down here, and we're in the wet spot. The one thing I've been keeping an eye on down here is to make sure there's not any tar spots showing up, which so far I haven't seen any. Because tar spot has only really been an issue around here about the last 5-6 years, and it's supposedly been getting real well. Last year it got really bad, not necessarily around here, but a couple guys I used to, well, mostly one guy I used to work with, and then a friend of ours that farms over that way further, they had a bunch of corn actually go down. The tar spot got so bad. Let me We'll set you down here for a minute. See where we're at. I was down here a couple weeks ago and I found one that was 18 or around 32 long. This one is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Yep, that one's 18 around. Got some poor pollination at the tip though, that's a little odd. But we are... This guy's shaped a little goofy. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. That one's about 30 full rings, or 30 full rings long, and ring number 31 is where it pollinated a little goofy. Let's go down a little further. I think I'm still in the middle of a wet spot. It's hard to tell once the corn's this tall. I bet that this corn's got to be every inch of 10 foot tall. I mean, ear placement is about my head. Yeah, I think we're out of the wet spot now because the corn's taller. Okay, let's grab another one here. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just... Oops. This one's pollinated kind of funny too. I wonder what caused that. They're right there. They didn't really fill out. Don't see anything wrong with the corn. Well, we'll know more when it gets to the dent stage. Right now we're in the blister stage, so that's a little disappointing. I mean, I don't physically see anything wrong with the corn. The only thing I can think is it was kind of, well, during pollination, it was really damn hot. And heat and dry will make corn have pollination issues, and that's the only thing I can think it might have happened. Otherwise, there would, you know, be something physically wrong with the corn plants to do it, and I don't see anything physically wrong with the corn plants. That being said, well, shit, we're not even done pollinating though yet, because there's still... Corn isn't fully pollinated until the silks are... They look like that, but they're still... And let's get a... There's still some pollen in there, so I don't know. Almost have to give it another week or so and see what happens. All right, this is another one of the bean fields that got planted my first day. Actually, this was the last one I got planted, finished up in the dark, and this is also the one where I had that seed cup on the drill get plugged up with something or other. And so I got, well, this is a skip row. Man, these are tall. This is more than a skip row. I don't know what the heck, because there's that row right, I don't know what happened here. But I mean, all things considered, this field looks pretty damn good as well. Now this is a skip row. I wonder if that row right there washed or something, and because the actual skip rows where I had that run plug, you can't really tell because they canopied out, and that spot back there you can tell. But good number of pods on these too. 3 bean pods mostly. Beans this year kind of, it just doesn't seem like this was a very good year for beans around here, because they either did or they didn't. Just once guys got them planted, and I've scouted a lot of fields there toward the beginning of the season for some guys we do work for, and it doesn't really seem to matter, no till, full width tillage, minimum tillage, new planter, old planter, it doesn't matter. Just beans this year just are just kind of like meh. And it does, the only correlation is it seems like the later you got planted, to an extent, well, the later you got planted, the worse they look. The earlier you got planted, the better they look. But we hit that dry spell we had there toward the beginning, and they put them into a funk, and they just never really seem to come out of it. And I think that's kind of affecting how well they're podding. So I don't expect to see the same bean yields this year that I saw last year. I don't think we're going to do terrible. I just don't think it's going to be as good this year as it was last year. But time will tell. Firstly, you don't really know until it's going in the bin on the combine. And I also know a lot of guys that had to replant 2 or 3 times to get a stand out of it, because like I say, it just, for some reason, beans just did not want to go this year. And I don't know, I can't really explain it, because all in all, other than we got started late because we had such a wet spring, for the most part, our weather pattern this year was very similar to last year. It's just everything was shifted 2 weeks later, because last year we were getting started last week April, first week of May. Damn volunteer corn. This year we didn't get started until the second week of May. But other than that, if you shift everything back 2 weeks and kind of have it in that mindset, the weather pattern was virtually identical. So this early spring this year, I would say, was probably a little on the cooler side compared to last year, but that's probably the biggest difference I could say. So I don't know. Like I say, time will tell. So on to the next one. Okay, now this is that first little 2-acre piece that I stuck the planter in the ground for the first time in. So, and this is the spot where it's all gravel from the driveway where shit never grows. I've even moldboarded this to try to roll that shit under and mix more dirt, and it didn't work. This is some really good looking corn too. This field is gonna be, trying to remember, roughly 7 days-ish ahead of the muck. So let's see how well we're pollinated out here. Get out of my face. Oh, this is a lot nicer. This is a lot nicer. Here we're pollinated damn near to the tip. We're stopped pollinating about there, so. And there is still some yellow silk, so same thing, this field isn't necessarily done pollinating yet either. So here we are at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, or 16 around here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Roughly 34, possibly 35 long before we get into the tip kernels that get a little weird. Because when you're counting on the ear of corn, you never count the butt kernels because they don't make correct rings. So like on this one, you start counting, I started 4 kernels up because you get into this and the kernels are, butt kernels don't form rings. And then same thing with the tip kernels, they form rings, but they start doing goofy shit as the tip closes up. So what, 16 around 35 long, that's not nothing to scoff at. As you can see, our weed control in this field is a lot better this year. There's 2 strips where I must have got off because this is the field where I didn't realize that my marker arms aren't set quite right. So I got rows that are like 10 inches off of each other. It's gonna be interesting to combine. Yeah, so I must have got off counting rows when I was spraying, and I missed like 2 30-inch sections of, so I think there's a couple rows over. It's not terrible, but a damn sight better than what it was last year when we had beans out here, right? So can't complain. See, like right there, no, that's, yeah, so that's gonna be a narrow row, or is it? I don't know. I know I got rows that are, oh, right here's one of them where I missed the ragweed. And then it cleans up again right there. So I literally missed one. It's in the row. I must have been just over far enough and just over far enough that I didn't overlap this row and I missed it. Corn gets better up here. It gets darker in color up here too. Because this used to be, there was a house that sat here, so this ground is really fucked up. And there's actually, I don't know if I ever mentioned it or not, we're pretty sure, and I don't know if I can find it. Yeah, see, and then the corn gets dark again here because that's where the house used to sit. So that's all fill dirt. And then you can't get anything to grow here because this was driveway and concrete. But somewhere up in here, about 50 or so, 60 feet in, there's what I'm pretty sure is a septic tank, because there's a concrete rectangle that I hit that I kind of want to bring the Mini over here and bust it in, and I kind of don't, because it could still be full of shit and I don't want to deal with that. So anyhow, on to the next one. Okay, so this is that cornfield that we put on the hay ground. As you can see, this spot never really came out of its funk. Teeter, get down here. Teeter. Okay, she's going in the corn. It did perk up after I put nitrogen on it. It greened back up, started catching back up, and then it did this again. So we're thinking, I even had my boss come out and look at it, and it stumped him too. The only thing, we kind of ruled out a nutrient deficiency because there's no real pattern, no rhyme or reason. It's just this spot, and kind of ruled out soil moisture because the wet spot that this stems from goes all the way up the hill, and you get to it's basically exactly 2 planter passes wide. You get to that 3rd planter pass and it like immediately greens up and goes back to normal corn. So my boss was almost leaning towards, and I guess I had never thought about it, he was wondering if I had a nematode issue. Since I went from a grass crop to a grass crop, going from, you know, grass hay to a corn crop, he's wondering if there was a nematode issue. Lots of double ears though. And there are tests you could do. I could have sent some soil tests in to either Purdue or Michigan State or whatever, and they could test for nematodes, but in the end, basically all they would have told you was, yep, you got a nematode problem. There's really not a whole lot you can do about it at this point. It kind of is what it is. So, but all in all, it's actually a really good looking corn crop out here. Lots of double ears, which surprises me, and they're both pollinated. Let's just take this guy right here, huh? We'll pull this ear and we'll pull this ear. Your second ear is generally never going to be a full ear, and you'll have guys argue and say, well, you really don't want the double ear because you're robbing from your primary ear. Well, I would argue that that corn plant is smart enough to know, I mean, a plant's #1 job in life is to survive and reproduce and or keep the species alive. That's my corn, don't take that. That's what they're there for. They're not gonna let themselves not survive and not reproduce and not keep. That's just, they're plants. That's not what they're programmed to do in nature. So if it wasn't capable of producing at least 1 full ear and 1 partial ear, it wouldn't produce the partial ear. And that being said, corn plants are capable of producing a lot more than 1 ear. Like if you, for instance, at a buddy's house one time, at a fence post at the corner of his field, there must have, how it ended up there, if a bird dropped or whatever, there must have been a corn kernel dropped right on the edge of the fence post. And the corn plant grew fully matured. It had 9 fully pollinated ears on it. Corn plants are capable of producing a lot. They could never produce that much in a field setting planted at a full population. So, but this is kind of impressive because this year it's probably, I'd say 65 to 70% pollinated. This is your secondary. The primary is damn near fully pollinated, which this is the same hybrid that's out on the muck. So, that makes me pretty confident that it's not a hybrid problem, because otherwise, if it was a hybrid problem, this one would be showing the same pollinated down to here problem. So if you got 1 fully developed ear, which this guy is, the butt on this one's a little goofy, so we'll start here. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26, and he's about 27 long. And 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. That's it. 2 4 6. Oh wait, I was counting ones. 2 4 6 8 10 12 14 16 18. That's 20 around. So you've got 20 by 27, so it's a tad short, but not terrible. And I counted pretty far up on the butt because there's a bunch of kernels down here that are growing into each other, and then I didn't count very far up on the tip. So I mean, it's longer than that, it's just not full rings. And then you've got this secondary ear, which is probably, probably somewhere between 60 and 70% pollinated. So if this ear fully develops and this ear does its thing, I mean, you basically got half of an ear for free. That's the best way. That's kind of the way I look at it, because you're doing everything you can to make one fully developed ear. If you can get a secondary ear that even produces 50% without having to do anything for it, you basically got 50% of an ear for free. That's the way I look at it. So I'm kind of impressed. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this field does in particular, just because of how it looked at the beginning versus how it looks now, because it's actually kind of impressive. I really didn't figure this field was going to make out like that when we first got rolling. So now hopefully the muck will catch up and the ears will look like this, because that's a little concerning, but at this point there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. And now we got this field. This field pissed me off. Teeter, stay down here by me. Teeter, come here. When I sprayed this field, the beans were about this tall. There was a fair bit of grass out here, but you could very easily drive it across the field when I was spraying it, see the beans. They were about this tall, had 3-4 trifoliates on them. Really nice even stand all the way across the field. Came back out here about a week later when I was going around checking my kill on the weeds. Teeter, come here. And they were gone. Wasn't any beans. There was just little nubbins. The deer came through here, ate the entire field, all of it. This field has always been a little bit of a problem child with deer, because it's what the hell? It's the only field on this road. It's the only field on this road, and the guy I rent it from has 90 acres here that it's a hunting preserve. So deer population out here is high to begin with, but I've never had an issue. I mean, I've always gotten something off of it. I mean, the rent's cheap and dirt's dirt, so I've never been too picky about it. But holy shit, I've never seen it this bad. Never. Normally they stick to the back side of the field. Normally the front's fine. This time they mowed off the whole thing. And the beans kept trying to grow back, and they kept eating them. They never quit. And they finally must have quit now, because the bean... Teeter, come here. Teeter. Come here. Teeter. There's people out there at the neighbor's place. Yeah, I've never had this issue. Teeter, come here. I'm putting you in the truck. Come on. Or I'm not going to stand here and watch her try to do this at the same time. So I was really hoping that they were going to grow out of it, and they probably would have if the deer would have went away. Get in there. But the deer never went away. They kept eating them off, and I'm actually impressed. The back never grew back. They kept eating, and they finally got to the point where I think they ate the growing point off of the bean, and they just quit growing back there. The front they must have left alone once it got to a certain time of year. But so I had thought about, I basically got to the point where I was done throwing money at it, because I wasn't going to come out here and respray it and waste all the money on spray. And I mean, yeah, there's some beans out here in the front, but the minute you get to the bottom of the hill, they disappear. It's just this field is not worth spending money on to try to reclaim whatever's left. Sorry, neighbor guy just stopped down. He pretty much confirmed my suspicion. He said about every night there's between 15 and 20 deer out here in this field. 15 or 20 deer can mow off 4 acres of beans in a lickety split. So basically this field is going to be abandoned, which I mean, it's 4 acres, la-di-da. It's literally the only bad field of beans I got. I guess I can live with that. It's actually the only, as far as I know, the only deer damage I have in my beans at all this year, which is kind of impressive. But I don't know what it is about the deer population, if it's the fact that nobody's hunting, or if the coyotes, or if there's something wrong with the coyotes around here, but normally you see deer right at daybreak and right at dusk, you know. And this year, from sun up to sundown, driving up and down the road all day long, deer, does, bucks, fawns. I've been seeing a lot of twin fawns this year. I mean, the deer population around here is nuts, and I can't explain why. But he said he and his wife both have deer permits, and he said they're going to try to hunt out here. So hopefully they can take a couple out for me. So, but we will probably not. I'm probably going to come out here. I don't even know if I'm going to waste fuel disking it down. I'll probably just come. I might actually moldboard this. Try to take care of some of this damn grass I keep fighting, but we will definitely not see the combine in this field because I ain't even wasting the fuel to come out here. So anyway, on to the next field. I got one more bean field. We'll go to the last bean field I planted, and that'll kind of wrap up the video. Okay, here we are at the last field. The last field I planted. This is the one where all the trees came out of, obviously, and tell you what, I'm gonna walk the border because in between, well, I was gonna stop over at my uncle's and he was home, and I ended up talking to him for 20 minutes, and in that time it started raining, so rather than check that field, I just decided to drive over here. Since technically this is the last field I planted. I guess the only thing that you really need to know about my uncle's is the weeds came back in it, and I had my, rather than me going out and trying to spray it and having to get more chemical and only spraying 30 feet and knocking down a bunch of beans, I just had my buddy they got a Wilmar 724 with 60-foot boom, so I had him go out and spray it because he already had chemical and everything. And on 60-foot, with 60-foot booms, he's gonna be knocking down half as many beans, so figured it made more sense to go that route. He just got those sprayed yesterday, so those will clean up, and that's actually the only bean field. Well, I resprayed this one because there's a bunch of grass came back in it, and then that one had some grass, it had some common rag, it had some water hemp. So, but this field actually, the population is actually a little thin, but they bushed out, and I got good canopy now. This field actually looks pretty damn good, all things considered. Especially for the poor, well, we'll know more about soil conditions because I pulled a soil sample off of it, and hopefully have results back for that next, well, I have all my soil sample results back next week. They got, we sent in shit, almost 1,000 soil samples earlier this week, and my stuff was in them, so hopefully get those results back this week and we can talk about them. The only bad spot in this field, and I don't know if I can get to it without getting soaked or not, because I hate getting my boots. I don't even care about my jeans and my shirt like when I'm walking corn and stuff, I don't care about my shirt and my jeans getting soaked. I hate my boots getting soaked. Hate it. Let's see if we can mosey around the far side here. But it's back there in the corner where the grass was thicker and more healthy. My drill had a hard time planting through that sod. I probably should have pulled the stops on the chisel plow and got deeper over there and actually rolled some of that shit under, but at the time I didn't think it was going to be a super huge issue. But I mean, these are, for being on a wood lot, for all intents and purposes, these are pretty decent looking beans. Anyway, we can get back this way. There's, must be one or two or several woodchucks live down here because they finally grew back, but for a while I didn't know there was going to be anything along. Well, you can kind of see this edge right here, and then you can see they got that little whoop-de-doo, and then it kind of stayed that deep up along, but they finally must have decided that they didn't taste very good anymore and quit eating them, and they kind of started to fill back in, because this was all, there was beans in here, and then they ate them all down. Looks like they got some of them to the point where they didn't grow back, but then all these shorties, this was all where the woodchucks ate them off, and then they tried coming back. But you can see it's kind of thin in here where the side was, although I'm actually, if you looked at it when they came up, I never figured they would have canopied this good, but they canopied fairly decent. And bushy beans will still make beans, so they got quite a few flowers on them. So these ones are far enough behind the first few fields we looked at. They're not going to be potted out as to the extent yet because they're not that far along. And this field actually, the first fields are even further along because I got done planting during that, right at the beginning of that 2.5, 3 week dry spell, whatever it turned out to be. So this field and my uncle's never actually came out of the ground until damn near 2.5 to 3 weeks after I put them in the ground. So the fact that they look this good after going through that, I'm very impressed. So and this is one of them deals where next year's gonna be better and the year after that's gonna be better. The more we work the ground and the more we get it built back up where it belongs and the more we throw at it. And that is if I can afford to keep farming. It'll just keep getting better and better. It'd be nice to actually throw some manure on it if I could haul some over here. I don't want to, I've thought in the past about hauling manure in the grain truck, but I just can't bring myself to dump cow shit in a grain box. At least not on those trucks. I mean, if it was a ratted out shitty grain truck, yeah, so be it. But granted, our trucks aren't super duper 100% perfect, but I mean, we got some pretty nice old grain trucks, and I just can't bring myself to haul shit in them. I almost wish I had a dump truck or some, like a steel-sided wagon or something that I could actually haul like dirt and manure and stuff in and take it where I want to spread it. So anyway, that basically gives you a rundown of where things are at. Like I say, nothing other than that one bean field where the deer ate the living dog shit out of it, because that field got planted like 10 days before this field, and you can see these beans are like waist high, and those beans are barely over the cuffs of my boots, the ones that are there. So, and getting a deer permit or a nuisance permit ain't gonna do a shitting thing. Not the way our deer population is around here, because one of the guys, or one of my boss's neighbors, they're a pretty big outfit. And they have been having, just like everybody else around here, an increasing deer problem. And last year they got a bunch of guys together between the nuisance permits and then the regular tags during deer season. They took 60 deer, does, bucks, they didn't discriminate. They took 60 deer off their home farm. Didn't make a lick of difference. 60 deer off of one farm. But I don't know. They almost need to have it open. They just, for like a year or two, they just need to have an open season. Just let them hunt the shit out of them. Get the population knocked back down to a manageable level. But we can't do that because nature. Well, fuck deer. Not the equipment company, the actual animal. Fuck them. I say that. I like watching fawns play. I have fawns. I usually have a couple twins in my back. There's a mom brings her twins in my backyard. I like watching them. You can't stand them once they walk through, once they walk past the border of a field. But anyway, it's still spitting rain here, so I think we're gonna wrap things up here at this point. Tomorrow we're gonna get the 1950T ready for the tractor pull. We're gonna have a tractor pull on Monday. I think this week, since I can't get the backhoe, I'm going to work on getting the field that I'm going to put into hay moldboarded. And then I got a moldboard field for my boss because he wants to put it into hay, and it's got a really bad mare's tail problem, so he wants me to roll that over. So I'm probably going to video that. So basically we're going to have some tractor pulling and some moldboard plowing coming up. And then we're going to start working on combines. So videos should start picking up here. We've been kind of in a lull the past couple weeks because I've been picking up or getting the odd jobs knocked out to so we can start getting wound up for fall here. So yeah, looks like it's going to start raining harder on me. So I guess that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.